They're watching you. Follow me. The waitress slides a note under the table to the mafia boss. The rain hammered against the windows of Sal's diner like bullets against glass, a sound Vittorio Dante knew far too well. He sat alone in the corner booth, the one that gave him a clear view of both entrances and the street beyond. Old habits from a life where turning your back meant turning up dead. His phone buzzed for the third time. Same blocked number, same silent threat. Someone was making moves, testing boundaries, seeing how far they could push before the city's most feared crime lord pushed back. Vittorio's jaw tightened as he slid the device face down on the table. Let them wait. Let them wonder. The diner was nearly empty at this hour, just past midnight, when honest people were home and the dishonest were getting started. A trucker sat at the counter nursing coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. An elderly couple shared a piece of pie in comfortable silence. And behind the counter, refilling sugar dispensers with mechanical precision, was a woman who hadn't looked up once since he'd walked in. Most people noticed him immediately. His reputation preceded him like a shadow that swallowed light. Men crossed the street when they saw him coming. Bartenders poured his drinks before he asked. Rivals who challenged his territory learned the hard way that Vittorio Dante didn't make threats. He made examples that no one forgot. But this waitress moved through her routine as if he were invisible. Her blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, her simple uniform somehow elegant in its ordinariness. She wasn't ignoring him out of fear. She genuinely didn't care who he was, and that fascinated him more than it should have. More coffee? Her voice startled him from his thoughts. She stood beside his booth now, pot in hand, her blue eyes meeting his with neither fear nor recognition. Just professional courtesy tinged with exhaustion from a long shift. Please. He watched her pour, noted the steadiness of her hands, the efficiency of movement that spoke of years doing this same job in this same place. A life of simple routines and honest work. Everything his world wasn't. She turned to leave, and something made him speak. Slow night. Always is, this late. She glanced at the empty tables. We get the insomniacs, the night shift workers, the people with nowhere else to go. Her eyes flickered to him briefly. Which one are you? Maybe all three. The corner of her mouth lifted slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. Then you're in the right place. We specialize in lost causes and black coffee. She moved away before he could respond, returning to her sugar dispensers with that same methodical focus. Vittorio found himself studying her when he should have been studying the street. There was something in the way she carried herself, a quiet strength that reminded him of someone, though he couldn't place who. The thought nagged at him like a half-remembered dream. His phone buzzed again. This time, a text appeared from a number he recognized. You're being watched. North Side. Black sedan. 2 men. It was from Marco, his head of security, always 3 steps ahead, always invisible until needed. Vittorio didn't turn his head toward the window. Instead, he picked up his coffee cup, took a slow sip, and scanned the reflection in the glass. Sure enough, a dark sedan sat across the street, engine running despite the late hour. Amateur surveillance. Whoever wanted him to know he was being followed wasn't trying very hard to hide it. The question was why? Intimidation? Unlikely. He'd built his empire on being impossible to intimidate. Information gathering? Possible, but he varied his routine specifically to avoid patterns. Which left one option. They were waiting for something, or someone. The waitress appeared beside his booth again, this time without the coffee pot. She set down his check, and as she did, something small and white slid beneath it. A folded piece of paper, moved with such casual grace that anyone watching wouldn't have noticed. Their eyes met for one brief second. Hers held a message. Read it. Now. She walked away, disappearing into the kitchen without looking back. Vittorio's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from the electric charge of danger recognized. With deliberate calm, he picked up the check, unfolded the note beneath it, and read 4 words that changed everything. They're watching you. Follow me. No signature, no explanation. Just a warning from a waitress who supposedly didn't even know who he was. He looked up. She stood by the kitchen door now, wiping down menus, but her body language had changed. Every muscle was coiled tension disguised as routine. She was waiting for his decision. Vittorio had survived 20 years in the criminal underworld by trusting his instincts, and right now, every instinct screamed that this woman knew something he didn't. Something that could be the difference between walking out of this diner or being carried out. He stood, dropped $200 bills on the table, 10 times what the coffee cost, and walked toward the kitchen. The waitress didn't acknowledge him, just pushed through the swinging door. He followed. The kitchen was empty, cleaned and prepped for tomorrow's breakfast shift. She moved quickly through it, past the industrial refrigerators and steel prep tables, to a back door that led to the alley. She paused there, hand on the handle, and finally looked at him directly. "If you value your life," she said quietly, "you'll trust me for the next 5 minutes. Don't ask questions, don't argue. Just follow exactly where I go. Who are you?" The words came out harder than he intended, shaped by years of assuming everyone wanted something from him. "Someone who's saving you from making the biggest mistake of your life." She pushed open the door. "Now, move." The alley was dark, lit only by a single flickering bulb above the dumpsters. She led him away from the street, deeper into the maze of service corridors behind the restaurants. He could hear his own heartbeat, the splash of their footsteps in puddles, the distant wail of sirens that were always somewhere in this city. They emerged onto a side street 2 blocks away. She gestured to a beat-up Honda parked under a broken streetlight. "Get in. Driver's seat." "I don't—" "They planted a tracker on your car while you were inside." Her voice was steady but urgent. "In about 90 seconds, 4 more vehicles are going to box in this entire block. You need to be gone before that happens." Vittorio's mind raced. "How do you—" "Because I saw them do it." She thrust a set of keys into his hand. "And because your head of security, Marco, called me 20 minutes ago and told me to get you out. Now stop wasting time and drive." The mention of Marco's name was what convinced him. Nobody knew about Marco except the inner circle. Nobody. He slid into the driver's seat. She moved to get in the passenger side, but he grabbed her wrist. "You're coming with me." "I wasn't planning on staying." She yanked free and climbed in, slamming the door. "Drive south, fast. Don't stop until I tell you." Vittorio started the engine and pulled out just as headlights appeared at both ends of the street. She'd been right. They were trying to box him in. He floored the accelerator, taking a hard right that made the tires scream. "Left at the next light," she directed, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Then straight for 6 blocks. He followed her instructions, weaving through late-night traffic with the precision of someone who'd fled danger before. Behind them, the headlights fell away, unable to match his speed or his knowledge of these streets. After 10 minutes of serpentine navigation through the city's industrial district, she finally spoke again. "Pull over here." They were in front of an abandoned warehouse, the kind of place that didn't exist on any official map. He killed the engine and turned to face her properly for the first time. In the dim glow of the dashboard lights, he could finally see her clearly. Mid-20s, with features that were striking in their simplicity. But it was her eyes that held him, blue like winter sky, steady and fearless and somehow familiar in a way that made his chest tighten. "Start talking," he said quietly. "Who are you, and how do you know Marco?" She met his gaze without flinching. "My name is Elena Rossi, and I know Marco because 5 years ago you knew my sister." She paused, and something painful flickered across her face. Her name was Sophia Rossi, and before she died she made me promise that if you ever needed help, I'd give it. No questions asked. The name hit him like a physical blow. Sophia. Beautiful, broken Sophia, who'd stumbled into his world during the worst gang war the city had ever seen. Sophia, who'd trusted him to protect her and paid the ultimate price when he failed. He'd never forgotten her. And looking at Elena now, he saw the resemblance. The same eyes, the same quiet strength, the same way of looking at the world like it was something to be endured rather than enjoyed. Sophia's sister, he breathed. All this time you've been here, working at that diner. Watching, Elena corrected. Making sure you stayed alive long enough for me to repay the debt. What debt? I couldn't save her. No. Elena's voice softened. But you tried. And before she died, you made sure her daughter, my niece, was taken somewhere safe. Somewhere your enemies would never find her. You gave that little girl a chance at a normal life. She looked away, blinking back what might have been tears. Sophia told me if anything happened to her, I should look out for you, because you were the only good man in a world full of monsters. Vittorio's throat tightened. He'd never known Sophia had a sister. Never known she'd shared their secret with anyone. The men tonight, who sent them? Victor Marchetti. The name fell between them like a death sentence. He's been planning this for months. Tonight was supposed to be the night you disappeared. Permanently. Marchetti, his father's old rival, the one who'd been circling like a vulture ever since the old man died, waiting for any sign of weakness. He's making his move. He's already made it. Elena pulled out her phone, showed him a series of photos, his car, his security team, his regular routes all documented with meticulous detail. He knows everything about you, Vittorio, your patterns, your people, your vulnerabilities, and he's been using me to get that information. The words should have made him angry. Instead, he felt strangely calm. But you warned me anyway. I'm not my sister's keeper. Elena's jaw set. I'm her avenger, and that means making sure the man she died protecting doesn't end up in the same grave. They sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of the past settling around them like dust. Finally, Vittorio spoke. You just made yourself a target. Marchetti will know you betrayed him. I know. He'll come after you. I know that too. Then why? Because Sophia asked me to. Elena's voice was steady, final. And because some debts are worth more than safety. Vittorio studied her face, this woman who'd just thrown away whatever normal life she'd built to save a man she didn't even know. The rain had started again, drumming against the roof of the car like 1,000 urgent whispers. You can't go back to your apartment, he said, or the diner, anywhere Marchetti knows about. I wasn't planning to. Then where? That's your problem now. She smiled for the first time, and it transformed her entire face. You're the mafia boss. I just saved your life. Figure it out. Against all logic, against every rule he'd ever lived by, Vittorio found himself smiling back. Marco's safe house, 3 blocks from here. You'll stay there tonight while I figure out what Marchetti's planning. I'm not some damsel who needs protecting. No, he agreed. You're something much more dangerous. You're someone who knows exactly how dangerous I am and chose to help me anyway. He started the engine. That makes you either very brave or very stupid. My sister used to say I was both. Elena's expression sobered. She also used to say you were worth saving. I'm trusting she was right about that too. As they drove through the rain-soaked streets toward safety, Vittorio couldn't shake the feeling that everything had just changed. This woman, this stranger who carried her sister's ghost in her eyes, had just upended his carefully controlled world. And the most terrifying part was that he didn't want to send her away. The safe house was exactly what Elena expected. A nondescript apartment above a closed bakery, the kind of place that existed in every city, invisible in its ordinariness. Marco met them at the door, his weathered face creasing with relief when he saw Vittorio alive. Boss. He clasped Vittorio's shoulder briefly, then turned to Elena with something that looked like respect. Miss Rossi, I'm glad you got the message in time. How long have you known who I was? Elena asked. Since the day you started working at Sal's, 3 years, 2 months, 17 days. Marco's expression was unreadable. Sophia made me promise to watch over you after what happened. I kept that promise. The revelation shouldn't have surprised her, but it did. All this time you were watching. From a distance. Making sure Marchetti's people didn't connect you to us. Making sure you stayed safe. He glanced at Vittorio. Until tonight, when staying silent would have gotten everyone killed. Vittorio moved past them into the apartment, his posture tense despite the safety of 4 walls and locked doors. Tell me about Marchetti's plan. Elena followed, taking in the space. Spartan furnishings, reinforced windows, multiple exits. A place built for survival, not comfort. He's been tracking you for 6 months, every meeting, every route, every person in your organization. He was looking for a pattern, a vulnerability. And he found one. Vittorio's voice was flat. Your consistency. Every Tuesday night you eat at Luigi's. Every Thursday, you meet your accountant at the warehouse on 5th. Every Sunday, I visit my father's grave. The words came out like stones. Alone. That's when he was planning to strike. Elena pulled out her phone again, showed them a text message from a number she'd been forced to save. This Sunday, dawn. When you'd be isolated, vulnerable, grief-distracted. Marco's face darkened. It's a good plan. We'd have lost him before we even knew he was gone. How did you get pulled into this? Vittorio asked, his dark eyes fixed on Elena with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Marchetti's lieutenant approached me 6 months ago. Said they knew about Sofia, knew about the connection. Told me if I didn't feed them information, they'd hurt my niece. Elena's hands clenched. I've been walking a tightrope ever since, giving them enough to seem cooperative while trying to figure out how to warn you without getting us all killed. Why not come to me directly? Because I didn't know if I could trust you. The honesty felt like stripping armor. Sofia loved you, but she also died in your world. I wasn't sure if you were the man she believed you to be, or just another monster in an expensive suit. Something flickered in Vittorio's expression. Pain, perhaps, or recognition of a truth he couldn't deny. And now? Now I know you're both. Elena held his gaze. The question is, which one wins? The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications neither was ready to examine. Finally, Marco cleared his throat. I'll make some calls. Find out how much Marchetti knows about tonight's failed operation. We need to know if he suspects Miss Rossi's involvement. After he left, Elena found herself alone with Vittorio in a space that suddenly felt too small. He'd removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and she could see the evidence of his life written on his skin. Scars that told stories she'd probably never hear. Tattoos that marked allegiances and losses. Sofia never told me she had a sister, he said quietly, moving to the window to scan the street below. Old habits. We didn't talk much about our lives before. It seemed safer that way. She didn't tell me much about you either. Just that you were different. That you tried to be good in a world that punished goodness. Elena sank onto the worn couch. After she died, I found her journals. That's when I learned everything. The war between families, the impossible choices, the way you tried to save her even when it meant losing everything else. I didn't save her. The words were edged with old pain. I failed. You got her daughter out. That's not failure. It's not enough. It's what she wanted. Elena pulled out a small photograph from her wallet. Sofia, radiant and alive, holding a baby with her same bright eyes. She wrote that if anything happened to her, the only thing that mattered was keeping Lily safe. You did that. Vittorio turned from the window, and the naked grief on his face made Elena's chest ache. Where is she now? The girl? Somewhere your world can't touch her. That's all you need to know. He nodded, accepting the boundary. Thank you. For protecting her. For protecting me tonight. Don't thank me yet. We're not safe. Marchetti will figure out I warned you, and when he does, he'll have to go through me to get to you. The promise was absolute, delivered with the certainty of a man who'd made and kept far darker vows. Elena stood, moving closer despite every instinct screaming at her to maintain distance. I didn't save you so you could die protecting me. I saved you because Sofia believed you could change this city. Be better than what came before. That's a lot of faith to put in a monster. You're not a monster. The words came out fiercer than she intended. Monsters don't remember the names of the people they've lost. They don't visit graves. They don't look at photographs of children they saved and feel regret for the mother they couldn't protect. You don't know what I've done, what I'm capable of. I know exactly who you are, Vittorio Dante. Elena stepped into his space, forcing him to meet her eyes. I've spent 3 years watching you. I've seen you refuse to retaliate when provoked. I've seen you redirect territory disputes to avoid bloodshed. I've seen the businesses you protect, the families you keep employed, the communities you've kept stable when the city would have torn them apart. That doesn't erase the rest. No, but it means you're trying. And that's more than most men in your position would ever do. His hand rose, almost involuntarily, to touch her face. Then he caught himself, pulled back, the vulnerability in his expression replaced by cold control. You should get some rest. Tomorrow, we figure out how to keep you alive and take down Marchetti before he moves against us. The dismissal was clear, but Elena didn't move. My sister told me something before she died. She said that loving you was the first choice she'd ever made that felt right, even though it destroyed her. She said you were worth the cost. She was wrong. Was she? Elena held her ground. Because from where I'm standing, you've spent 5 years trying to honor her memory by being the man she believed you could be. That doesn't sound like someone who wasn't worth loving. Vittorio's jaw clenched, and for a moment, she thought he might shatter. Instead, he turned back to the window, his spine rigid. Get some rest, Elena. This time, she listened. But as she retreated to the small bedroom Marco had indicated, she couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between them. She'd come here to repay a debt, to honor her sister's dying wish. She hadn't expected to find a man who carried his grief like armor, who built empires to protect the broken pieces of himself. She hadn't expected to care whether he lived or died. That night, Elena didn't sleep. She lay in the dark, listening to Vittorio's voice drift through the walls as he made calls, arranged meetings, built strategies to counter Marchetti's move. He sounded different on the phone, harder, colder, the man Sophia had warned her about. The crime lord who made people disappear with a whisper. But every so often, the mask would slip. She'd hear the exhaustion in his voice, the weight of responsibility that never lifted. And she'd remember that he was just a man her sister had loved, a man who'd saved a child at the cost of everything else, a man she was starting to understand far too well. Dawn broke gray and threatening, matching her mood. She found Vittorio in the kitchen, 3 phones arranged on the counter, dark circles under his eyes that said he hadn't slept either. Marchetti knows, he said without preamble. His lieutenant called Marco an hour ago, asked if we'd seen you. Mentioned it would be unfortunate if you'd made any poor choices. Elena's stomach dropped. So it's done. I'm a target. You were always a target. Now it's just official. Vittorio poured coffee with mechanical precision. I've arranged for you to leave the city. Tonight. New identity, new life. Somewhere Marchetti's reach doesn't extend. No. The refusal was immediate, instinctive. His eyes narrowed. This isn't negotiable. I'm not running. Not from him. Not from this. Elena, you don't get to protect me by sending me away. She moved closer, forcing him to see her resolve. I chose this. I chose to warn you. I chose to honor my sister's memory by making sure you lived. Don't dishonor that choice by treating me like some helpless civilian who needs to be shuffled off to safety. You are a civilian. You have no training, no experience in this world. I have 3 years of intelligence on Marchetti's organization. I have contacts he doesn't know I've made. I have information that could bring his entire operation down. Elena's voice was steel. What I don't have is time to waste arguing with a man who's too afraid to admit he might need help. The words hung between them, sharp and undeniable. Vittorio set down his coffee cup with careful control. You're asking me to put you in danger. I'm telling you, I'm already in danger. The only question is whether we face it together or apart." He studied her face for a long moment, and she could see the war happening behind his eyes. The protector versus the strategist, the man who'd failed Sophia versus the leader who needed every advantage. Finally, he nodded. "Tell me everything you know about Marchetti's operation. Every contact, every weakness, every piece of leverage you've gathered." Relief flooded through her. "We'll need more coffee. And time." Vittorio's expression was grim. "Because what we're about to do will start a war that won't end until one of us is dead." As Elena began laying out 3 years of carefully gathered intelligence, she realized the truth. She wasn't doing this just for Sophia anymore. Wasn't doing it just to repay a debt or honor a promise. She was doing it because somewhere between that first warning note and this gray morning, she'd stopped seeing Vittorio Dante as a debt to be paid. She'd started seeing him as a man worth fighting for, worth risking everything for, and that terrified her more than Marchetti ever could. 3 days of planning had transformed the safe house into a war room. Maps covered the walls, marked with territories and power structures. Elena's intelligence had filled in gaps Vittorio hadn't even known existed. Marchetti's financial networks, his corrupted officials, the fragile alliances that held his empire together. "Here." Elena pointed to a dock on the east side. "This is where he moves most of his contraband. If we can get documentation of the shipments, we'd have enough to bring in federal authorities." Vittorio studied the map with calculated intensity. But Marchetti would see it coming. He has people everywhere. Not everywhere. Elena pulled out another file. This one thicker, older. "My sister kept records. Before she died, she documented everything she saw. Transactions, meetings, names. She was building a case, trying to find a way out." Vittorio took the file with reverent hands. "I never knew. She didn't tell you because she was trying to protect you. But I think—" Elena hesitated. "I think she knew she wouldn't make it out." This was her insurance. Her way of making sure the truth survived, even if she didn't. The documents were devastating. Evidence of corruption that went deeper than anyone had suspected. Connections between Marchetti and officials at the highest levels. Sophia had been meticulous, careful, brave beyond measure. "She was going to testify," Vittorio breathed. "That's why Marchetti had her killed." "Yes." Elena's voice was thick with old grief. "She told me she'd found a way to bring them all down. That she could save you, save herself, save everyone. 2 days later, she was dead. They made it look like an accident, but I knew. I've always known." Vittorio set down the file, and when he looked at Elena, his expression was raw. "I should have protected her." "You tried. She chose this path knowing the risks, just like I'm choosing now." "That's different." "How?" Elena challenged. "How is me helping you any different than Sophia trying to save you 5 years ago?" "Because I won't let you end up the same way she did." The words came out fierce, almost violent in their intensity. The air between them changed, charged with something that had been building since that first night in the rain. Elena felt her pulse quicken, awareness crackling along her skin. "Vittorio, you should go." He turned away sharply. "Marco will take you somewhere safe while I handle—" "Stop running from this." Elena moved around the table, forcing him to face her. "I see you doing it. Every time we get close to something real, you shut down, put up walls, pretend you're just the crime lord and I'm just the woman you're protecting. That's what we are. That's what you're afraid we are." She stepped closer, close enough to see the conflict in his dark eyes. "But it's not the truth. The truth is that you see Sophia when you look at me, and it terrifies you. The truth is that I see the man she loved when I look at you, and it terrifies me. The truth is that we're both trying so hard not to feel this that we're missing what's right in front of us." "And what's that?" "A chance." Elena's voice softened. "A chance to honor their memory by not making the same mistakes. A chance to be more than our grief and our guilt." Vittorio's hand rose to her face, and this time he didn't pull back. His fingers traced her cheekbone with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about him. I destroy everything I touch. Then maybe I'm already destroyed. She leaned into his touch. Maybe we both are. Maybe that's why this feels like the first honest thing either of us has done in years. The kiss happened like lightning, sudden, inevitable, electric. His mouth found hers with a hunger that spoke of 5 years of grief and guilt and loneliness. She responded with equal ferocity, channeling 3 years of watching and waiting and wondering. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Vittorio rested his forehead against hers. This is a mistake. Probably. I'll only hurt you. You already are. By pushing me away. He pulled back far enough to meet her eyes. Elena, if something happens to you because of me, then it happens. But at least I'll have lived. Really lived. Not just existed in the shadow of my sister's memory. She cupped his face in her hands. Sophia told me once that loving you was the first time she felt truly alive. I didn't understand that. Until now. I'm not that man anymore. The one she fell in love with. No, you're something else. Something more complicated, more scarred, more real. Elena smiled despite the tears threatening. And I'm not my sister. I don't need you to be who you were. I just need you to be honest about who you are now. Vittorio kissed her again, slower this time, deliberate. It tasted like surrender and acceptance, and the beginning of something neither of them had planned for. The door burst open. Marco stood there, his expression urgent. We have a problem. Marchetti's lieutenant just contacted me. He wants a meeting, tonight. Says he has something of yours. And if you want it back, you'll come alone. Elena's blood went cold. Lily. We moved her. Vittorio was already reaching for his phone. She's safe. He's bluffing. Check anyway. Marco's voice was grim, because he sent proof. The photograph that appeared on Vittorio's phone made Elena's world tilt. Lily, now 5 years old, with Sophia's blonde hair and bright smile, sitting in what looked like a car. She was unharmed, playing with a stuffed animal, clearly unaware of danger. But the message was clear. Marchetti had found her. How? Elena's voice shook. You said she was safe. You promised she was safe. She was. She is. This has to be fake. Call the safe house. Marco handed him another phone. Now. The call went straight to voicemail. Backup number, same result. Emergency contact, nothing. Elena watched the color drain from Vittorio's face as he realized the truth. He found her. The words came out broken. Somehow, he found her. Then we get her back. Elena's fear transformed into something harder. What does he want? Me. Vittorio stared at the photograph like it might change if he looked hard enough. He's always wanted me. This is just leverage to make sure I come alone. It's a trap. Obviously. You can't go. I don't have a choice. Vittorio's voice was deadly calm. He has a child, Sophia's child. I won't let history repeat itself. Elena grabbed his arm. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. You don't get to decide that. She's my niece, my blood. And if you think I'm going to sit here while you walk into certain death, if we both go, we both die. And then who protects Lily? The logic was brutal and undeniable. Marco stepped forward. There's another option. We can gather the full team. Hit them from multiple angles. And risk Lily getting caught in the crossfire. Vittorio shook his head. No. He wants me alone. I'll give him that. But I want eyes everywhere. I want every exit covered. And I want Elena somewhere safe. I want a lot of things too, Elena shot back. But we don't always get what we want. You're not going in there alone. I'll stay in the car. I'll stay out of sight. But I'm not leaving you. They stared at each other, wills clashing, neither willing to bend. Finally, Vittorio spoke. You stay in the car. You don't move unless Marco gives you the signal. And if things go wrong, if this goes bad, You run. You take Lily and you disappear. Promise me. Vittorio, promise me, Elena. Because I can't do this. Can't walk into that building knowing he has leverage over me. If I'm worried about you too. She wanted to argue. Wanted to fight. Instead, she nodded. I promise. But you promise me something too. You come back. Because I didn't just start figuring out how to be alive again just to watch you die. He pulled her close, kissed her hard. I'll come back. And when I do, we're leaving this city. All of us. We'll find somewhere Marchetti's reach doesn't extend. Somewhere Lily can grow up safe. Somewhere you and I can figure out what this is without running from ghosts. Deal. Elena tried to smile through her fear. But first, you have to not die. I'll do my best. As they prepared for the meeting that would determine everything, Elena couldn't shake the certainty that this was the moment Sophia had tried to warn them about. The moment when love and loyalty and old debts would collide with violence and vengeance and impossible choices. She touched the locket around her neck, Sophia's locket, the one that held a picture of Lily as a baby. And she prayed to her sister's memory that this time, the ending would be different. This time, everyone she loved would make it out alive. The warehouse stood like a monument to decay on the city's forgotten edge, rusted metal and broken windows that reflected nothing but darkness. Vittorio pulled up 50 yards away, cutting the engine as Marco's voice crackled through the earpiece. Teams in position. North, south, and west exits covered. Say the word and we move. Hold position. Vittorio's eyes scanned the building's perimeter. Let me go in first. Assess the situation. Boss, this is suicide. This is necessary. He glanced at Elena in the passenger seat. Her face was pale but determined, hands clenched in her lap. You stay here. Marco has eyes on you. Anything goes wrong, he gets you out. I hate this plan. Her voice shook slightly. I know. He touched her face one last time, memorizing the feel of her skin. But it's the only one that keeps Lily alive. What about keeping you alive? Working on that part. He tried to smile and failed. If I'm not out in 20 minutes... Don't! Elena grabbed his hand. Don't say goodbye. Just promise you'll come back so I can yell at you for scaring me. Deal. He kissed her hard, fast, then pulled away before he could change his mind. The walk to the warehouse felt eternal. Every step echoed in the silence. Every shadow held potential threats. Vittorio kept his hands visible, showing he was unarmed as instructed. The door was already open, an invitation into darkness. Inside, the warehouse was lit by harsh industrial lights that created more shadows than they eliminated. In the center, on a small chair, sat Lily. She was playing with the stuffed rabbit from the photo, humming a tune Vittorio recognized, something Sophia used to sing. His heart clenched. She looked so much like her mother. Same blonde curls, same delicate features. Too young to understand the danger surrounding her. She doesn't even know she's leverage. Victor Marchetti stepped from the shadows, flanked by 4 men with weapons visible but not raised. He was younger than Vittorio expected, mid-40s, handsome in a sharp way, with cold eyes that assessed everything. I told her we were taking her to see her aunt. She's been remarkably cooperative. Let her go. Vittorio's voice was steel wrapped in ice. She's 5 years old. Whatever you want from me, she has nothing to do with it. Oh, but she has everything to do with it. Marchetti circled Lily like a predator, though he didn't touch her. You see, her mother, beautiful Sophia, she took something from me. Something precious. And I've been waiting 5 years for the perfect moment to take something equally precious from you. Sophia didn't take anything. She tried to expose your operation. There's a difference. Is there? Marchetti's laugh was bitter. She destroyed my family. My father went to prison because of her testimony. My brother killed himself rather than face the same fate. My mother died of heartbreak 6 months later. Sophia Rossi didn't just expose corruption. She demolished everything I'd built, everyone I loved. The pieces clicked into place. You had her killed. I had her neutralized. The correction was precise, legal, and I would have ended it there. But then I discovered something interesting. You, the mighty Vittorio Dante, the untouchable crime lord, you'd gone soft. You saved her daughter, set up protection, new identity, the works. And I thought, now there's poetic justice. Let him raise her. Let him love her. And then, when the time is right, take her away and let him feel exactly what I felt. Vittorio's blood ran cold. You've been planning this for 5 years. Patience is a virtue. Marchetti pulled out a gun, not pointing it at anyone, just letting it exist between them. But then something unexpected happened. That little waitress who's been feeding me information, she warned you, saved your life. And I realized, you have 2 weaknesses now, the child and the woman. So I called an audible. Elena has nothing to do with this. She has everything to do with this. She's Sophia's sister. The last piece of the puzzle. Marchetti's smile was cruel. And she's outside in your car right now, probably thinking she's safe. Marco's men watching. Your whole operation ready to strike. Except, the explosion rocked the building. Not close, but close enough. Vittorio spun toward the direction of the sound, where he'd left Elena. That would be the car. Marchetti's voice was casual. Radio triggered. I've had people watching you for days. Knew exactly where you'd park, exactly where your men would position themselves. They're dealing with the blast right now, which means more men emerged from the shadows. Not 4, 12, all armed, all surrounding him. You're alone, Marchetti finished. And you're going to watch me walk out of here with this little girl. You're going to let me go because if you don't, if your men try to stop me, I will make sure Sophia's daughter understands exactly who her mother was, what she did, why she deserved to die. I will poison every memory this child has until she hates the ghost of the woman who birthed her. Vittorio's mind raced. The explosion. Elena. No. Marco would have gotten her out. He had to believe that. Had to focus on Lily, on the immediate threat. Or, Marchetti continued, you can make a trade. Your life for hers. Right here, right now. You stay, she goes. I get the satisfaction of ending the great Vittorio Dante, and the child goes free. Either way, I win. The only question is what you're willing to sacrifice. Every calculation, every strategy Vittorio had built over 20 years narrowed to one impossible choice. His life or Lily's future, his survival or her innocence. There was no choice at all. Let her go. The words came out steady. Take me. Do whatever you want. Just let the girl walk out of here. How noble. Marchetti gestured, and one of his men moved toward Lily. But I'm afraid it's not that simple. You see, I want you to suffer first. Want you to know what it feels like to lose everything. So here's what's going to happen. Victor! The shout came from the entrance. Elena stood there, alive, covered in dust from the explosion, but unharmed. Behind her, Marco and 3 other men had weapons trained on Marchetti's crew. It's over. Stand down. Relief and terror flooded through Vittorio in equal measure. She was alive. She was also in the line of fire. Miss Rossi. Marchetti's surprise was evident. You're remarkably resilient, though I suppose that runs in the family. His gun moved, not pointing at Elena, but shifting to make his intention clear. You should have stayed in the car. I'm done taking orders from men who think they can control me. Elena's voice was strong despite the obvious fear. And I'm definitely done letting you use a child as a weapon. Then you'll watch her die. The gun moved toward Lily. No. Elena pulled something from her jacket, a flash drive. But you'll want to see this first. It's everything my sister had on you. Every transaction, every corrupted official, every person you paid off or threatened. She was thorough, obsessively so. That evidence is 5 years old, worthless. Except she didn't just document the past. She documented the structure, the system, the method. Elena's smile was sharp. And I spent 3 years updating it, Every new deal you made, every person you brought into your organization, every vulnerability in your empire, it's all here. And copies have been sent to 3 different federal agencies with instructions to release if anything happens to me, Lily, or Vittorio. The warehouse went silent except for Lily's humming. She was still playing with her rabbit, oblivious. You're bluffing. But Marchetti's voice had lost its confidence. Am I? Elena tossed the drive toward him. It clattered across the concrete floor. Check it. But do it fast because those federal agencies, they're already mobilizing. Marco made the call 10 minutes ago. You've got maybe 20 minutes before this place is surrounded by people you can't pay off or threaten. Vittorio saw it happen in Marchetti's eyes. The calculation, the realization that he'd been outmaneuvered. His entire plan had hinged on Vittorio coming alone, vulnerable, desperate. He hadn't accounted for Elena being smart enough to survive, brave enough to walk into danger, strategic enough to turn his own trap against him. This changes nothing. Marchetti picked up the drive, his hand shaking slightly. I still have the girl. I still have... You have nothing. Vittorio's voice cut through the warehouse like a blade. Check the drive, see for yourself, then make your choice. Surrender now and maybe negotiate a deal, or wait for the feds and spend the rest of your life in a cell next to your father. The next 5 minutes felt like hours. Marchetti pulled out a tablet, loaded the drive, and Vittorio watched the color drain from his face as he scrolled through Elena's documentation. It was comprehensive, devastating. Everything Sophia had started, Elena had finished. You've been planning this. Marchetti looked up at Elena with something like respect. The whole time you were feeding me information, you were documenting my organization. I learned from the best. Elena's voice was soft. My sister taught me that the only way to survive monsters is to know them better than they know themselves. Every piece of information I gave you was real enough to seem useful, but useless enough to protect the people I cared about. And every conversation we had, every meeting, every instruction, I recorded it all. Why? The question came out broken. Why not just turn this over years ago? Because I needed you to feel safe, needed you to get sloppy, needed you to make one big move that would give me leverage. Elena glanced at Vittorio. And I needed to know if he was worth saving, if Sophia was right about him. Turned out she was. Marchetti lowered his gun. The fight had gone out of him, replaced by the hollow recognition of defeat. You win. Take the girl. Take your lives. But know this. I'm not the only one who wants Dante dead. There are others. There will always be others. Let them come. Vittorio moved toward Lily, scooping her up gently. She giggled, wrapping small arms around his neck. Because I'm done playing this game. I'm done with this life. As of right now, I'm walking away from it all. The words shocked everyone. Marchetti, Marco, even Elena. You didn't walk away from this world, not alive. You can't just quit. Marchetti's laugh was harsh. Watch me. Vittorio looked at his lieutenant. Marco, you've earned this. The territory, the business, the organization, it's yours. Run it however you want. Just keep the violence to a minimum and remember why we did any of this in the first place. To protect people, not to destroy them. Boss, Marco's voice cracked. It's done. I'm done. Vittorio turned to Elena. Get us out of here, before I change my mind. As they walked toward the exit, Vittorio carrying Lily, Elena at his side, Marco's team covering their retreat, Marchetti called out one last time. She'll never be safe. Neither of you will. The world doesn't let people like us just walk away. Vittorio paused at the door, looked back. Then I guess we'll have to make a new world. One where people like us can become people like them. Behind them, in the distance, sirens wailed. The federal agencies Elena had contacted were arriving. Marchetti and his men would be dealt with by systems far larger than any criminal empire. Outside, in the cold night air, Lily finally looked up at Vittorio. Are you my Uncle Vito? Mommy used to tell me stories about you. His throat tightened. Yeah, sweetheart, I'm your Uncle Vito. She said you were a hero, that you saved people. I tried to be. For her. For you. He met Elena's eyes over the child's head. For everyone who believed I could be something more than what I was. Elena took his free hand. Then let's go be those people. Somewhere far from here. As they walked into the night, leaving behind the warehouse, the empire, the violence and the past, Vittorio felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The FBI field office was sterile and cold, designed to intimidate. Vittorio sat across from Agent Sarah Morrison, Elena beside him, while Lily colored in the observation room with a social worker. They'd been here for 6 hours, giving statements, providing evidence, watching their old lives dissect under fluorescent lights. Let me make sure I understand. Agent Morrison reviewed her notes for the 3rd time. You're willing to testify against Victor Marchetti, provide full documentation of his criminal enterprise, and surrender all claims to your own organization in exchange for immunity and witness protection. That's correct. Vittorio's voice was steady. Everything I know, everyone I can identify, every operation I was part of, it's yours. In exchange, Elena, Lily, and I disappear. New identities, new lives. Somewhere Marchetti's associates can never find us. That's a lot to ask. It's a lot to give. Elena slid another file across the table. 3 years of intelligence on an organization that's eluded prosecution for 2 decades. My sister started this documentation. I finished it. And Vittorio can verify every detail, testify to every transaction. You'll dismantle not just Marchetti, but half the criminal infrastructure in this city. Morrison studied them both. The crime lord trying to walk away and the waitress who'd brought him down. Why now? Why not 5 years ago after Sophia died? Because 5 years ago, I was still that man. Vittorio gestured to the files. I thought I could change the system from inside. Thought I could run a criminal empire with honor, whatever that means. But you can't build something good on a foundation of violence. Eventually, the foundation cracks. And Lily was the crack. Elena's voice was soft. When Marchetti took her, when we saw what this life costs, not just us, but innocent children, we realized we had to choose. The empire or our souls. We chose our souls. Morrison leaned back, assessing. You understand what witness protection means? New names? New histories? No contact with anyone from your former life. You'll essentially cease to exist as Vittorio Dante and Elena Rossi. That's the idea. Vittorio reached for Elena's hand. We've been those people long enough. Time to find out who we can be when we're not carrying the weight of the past. And the organization you're leaving behind? Marco Antonelli takes over. How do we know he won't just continue? Marco is better than me. Always has been. Vittorio's expression was certain. He'll run things cleaner, smarter, focus on legitimate businesses and phase out the illegal operations over time. I've already transferred everything to him. He knows the conditions. Which are? No violence unless absolutely necessary for defense. No trafficking of any kind. No involvement with weapons or exploitation. Gradually transition the organization into legitimate enterprises. Construction, waste management, security firms. Things that employ people and help communities rather than destroy them. Morrison's eyebrow raised. You're reforming the mob from the inside? I'm giving someone I trust the chance to do what I couldn't. End this cycle. Make something good from something bad. Vittorio met her eyes. I know you don't trust me. I wouldn't either. But trust this. I'm tired. I'm so damn tired of being that man. And I want to spend whatever time I have left trying to be someone Lily can be proud of when she's old enough to understand. The agent was silent for a long moment. Then she closed her notebook. I'll recommend the deal to my superiors. But understand, you slip up once, you contact anyone from your old life, you show any indication of returning to criminal activity, the deal is void. You'll face prosecution for everything. Understood. And Miss Rossi, your testimony will be crucial. Marchetti's lawyers will try to discredit you. They'll dig into your past, question your motives, claim you were coerced. Let them. Elena's spine was steel. I have 3 years of recordings, documents, photographs. I have my sister's original files. I have Vittorio's corroboration. And I have the truth. That's more than enough. Morrison stood, extending her hand. Then we have a deal. Welcome to your new life. After she left, Vittorio and Elena sat in silence, the weight of what they'd done settling around them. They'd just dismantled everything. His empire, her quest for justice, the entire structure of their old identities. Are you scared? Elena asked quietly. Terrified. He squeezed her hand. I've been Vittorio Dante since I was 18. I don't know how to be anyone else. Then we'll figure it out together. Learn how to be normal people, pay taxes, complain about traffic, have boring problems that don't involve federal investigations or assassination attempts. Sounds terrible. But he was smiling. Sounds perfect. She leaned against his shoulder. What name do you want when they give us new identities? Something simple. John, Michael, something that doesn't carry history. I'm thinking of keeping Elena, just changing the last name. I want Lily to have some connection to who we were, even if she can never know the full truth. What will we tell her? When she's older? Elena thought for a moment. The truth. That her mother was brave. That she tried to make the world better. That she loved her more than anything. And that we, you and I, we tried to honor her legacy by choosing love over everything else. She'll hate me when she knows what I was. She'll understand. Because she'll also know what you became. Elena turned to face him. You're not that man anymore, Vittorio. You proved that today. You gave up everything, power, money, identity, for her, for me. That's not the action of a monster. That's the action of someone who's learned what really matters. Through the observation window, they could see Lily still coloring, her small face serious with concentration. She'd been remarkably calm through everything, too young to fully understand the danger, old enough to sense the adults around her were protecting her. Do you think we can do this? Vittorio asked. Be a family? Create something normal out of all this chaos? I don't know. Elena's honesty was refreshing. But I know we can try. And I know that trying with you feels more real than anything else I've ever done. He kissed her then, slow and deep, tasting hope and fear and possibility. When they broke apart, Elena was crying. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. She laughed through her tears. I just keep thinking about Sophia, how she'd laugh if she could see us now. The crime lord and the waitress, running off into witness protection with her daughter. It's absurd. It's perfect. Vittorio wiped away her tears. She'd love it. All of it. She'd love you for choosing this. For choosing us. I didn't choose. You chose me. 3 years ago when you started watching. Every day you showed up to that diner knowing I might walk in. Every moment you spent gathering evidence to protect people you'd never met. You chose this before I even knew it was possible. Then we chose each other. Elena stood, pulling him up with her. Come on. Let's go get Lily and start figuring out how to be normal people who do normal things like grocery shopping and parent-teacher conferences. I have no idea how to do any of that. Good, neither do I. We'll be terrible at it together. As they walked toward the observation room, toward the little girl who represented their second chance at redemption, Vittorio felt the last chains of his old life fall away. He was no longer the crime lord, no longer the feared name that made men cross streets. He was just a man trying to be better, trying to build something clean from the ruins of something broken. And, with Elena's hand in his, with Lily's future ahead of them, with the possibility of ordinary happiness stretching out like an unwritten story, he thought maybe, just maybe, they could pull it off. The door to the observation room opened. Lily looked up from her coloring, saw them, and smiled. Uncle Vito, Aunt Elena, Look what I drew. It was a picture of 3 people holding hands, a man, a woman, and a little girl. Above them, she'd drawn what looked like an angel with blonde hair. That's Mommy, Lily explained. She's watching over us. She told me in a dream that you'd keep me safe. And she was right. Vittorio knelt beside her, his vision blurring. Yeah, sweetheart. We'll keep you safe, I promise. Forever and ever, forever and ever. As Elena joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them, Vittorio sent a silent thank you to Sofia. For believing in him when he didn't believe in himself. For loving him enough to document the truth even when it cost her everything. For giving him this second chance through her sister and her daughter. He would spend the rest of his life making sure it wasn't wasted. 6 months later, the name on the mailbox read, Martin. Thomas Martin, schoolteacher. Sarah Martin, bookshop owner. And Lily Martin, second grader with a fondness for stories about brave princesses and dragons that could be reformed. The small house in Asheville, North Carolina, was nothing like Vittorio's old penthouse or Elena's cramped studio apartment. It had a yard with a swing set, neighbors who actually knew each other's names, and a mortgage that Thomas paid every month with money earned from teaching history to bored teenagers. It was perfect. Lily, breakfast. Elena, Sarah now, called from the kitchen. The adjustment to their new names had been harder than expected. She still sometimes forgot to respond to Sarah, still caught herself almost saying Vittorio instead of Thomas. But they were learning, adapting, becoming the people they'd always had the potential to be. Morning. Thomas wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, kissing her neck. How'd you sleep? Better than I have in years. And it was true. No nightmares about Marchetti, no fears of retribution, just normal dreams about normal things like whether they'd remembered to pay the electric bill. Coffee's ready. I'll get Lily up. He moved toward the stairs, and Elena watched him go. 6 months of teaching had softened some of his harder edges. He smiled more. Laughed more. Had started growing out his hair just because he could, because no one here cared about projecting power through appearance. He was Thomas. Kind, patient Thomas who helped students after class and volunteered at the community center on weekends. Nobody here knew about Vittorio Dante. Nobody knew about empires built on fear or wars between families, or the weight of violence carried like armor. And slowly, Vittorio himself was forgetting too. The wedding had been last month. Small ceremony at the courthouse with just Lily and their new neighbor as witnesses. Nothing fancy, nothing dangerous. Just 2 people promising to build something good together. Elena twisted the simple gold band on her finger. Mrs. Sarah Martin. It felt foreign and familiar all at once. Aunt Sarah. Lily bounded into the kitchen, already dressed for school in jeans and a t-shirt with a unicorn on it. Can Sophie come over after school? We have a project on the solar system, and her mom said it was okay if you said it was okay. Sure, sweetie. I'll call her mom to confirm. Thanks. You're the best. Lily grabbed a piece of toast and started chattering about her science project, about how she wanted to build Saturn with real rings, about how her teacher said she was the most creative student in class. Thomas appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame with an expression that was pure contentment. This, breakfast table conversations and school projects and neighbors coming over, this was the empire he'd traded everything for, and he'd never been richer. After Lily left for school, Elena and Thomas sat on the back porch with their coffee, watching the morning sun filter through the trees. It was their routine now. 30 minutes of quiet before the day started, time to remember who they were and who they were becoming. Do you miss it? Elena asked, the question that lived beneath everything. The power, the control, the respect. Thomas considered carefully. Sometimes, not the violence or the fear, but the certainty. Knowing exactly who I was and what I represented. Now I'm just human. Elena finished. Complicated and messy and figuring it out as we go. Yeah. He smiled. But I'm figuring it out with you. That makes it worthwhile. She leaned into him, and they sat in comfortable silence until Thomas's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, frowned at the unknown number. "Don't answer it," Elena said immediately. "It's probably nothing. Spam call or—" The text that appeared made them both freeze. "Congratulations on the wedding. Lovely ceremony. Just one letter." But they both knew who it was. "Marco. He found us." Elena's voice shook. "He was always going to find us. The question is why he's reaching out now." Thomas typed back carefully. "You shouldn't have this number." The response was immediate. "Relax. I'm not here to cause problems. Just wanted you to know everything's good back home. Organization's clean. Transition's complete. You made the right call." Another message followed. "Also wanted to say thank you for trusting me, for giving me the chance to do it right. You changed a lot of lives, boss. Not just your own." Thomas stared at the screen, emotions warring across his face. Then, "Don't call me boss. I'm not that person anymore. I know. That's why I'm texting. To tell you that the man you were is remembered, respected, and the man you're becoming is even better. Take care of them. Take care of yourself. This is goodbye." The phone went silent. No more messages came. Elena took the phone, deleted the thread, then wrapped her arms around Thomas. "It's really over, isn't it? That whole life. That whole world." "Yeah." He held her tighter. "It's really over. Are you okay?" "I'm getting there." He pulled back to look at her. "You know what helped? Something one of my students said yesterday. We were talking about the Civil War, about how people on both sides genuinely believed they were right. And this kid, smart kid, asks the hard questions. He said, 'But isn't growth about realizing you were wrong and choosing to be better?' And I thought, yeah, that's exactly it. That's what we're doing. Realizing we were wrong and choosing to be better." Elena smiled. "I like that." "Me too." Thomas stood, pulling her up with him. "Come on. You have to open the bookshop and I have papers to grade. We have boring, normal, beautiful lives to live." As they moved through their morning routine, Thomas gathering his teaching materials, Elena organizing inventory lists for the shop, Elena felt the last piece of her old fear dissolve. They were safe. They were free. They were alive in the way that mattered most. That evening, after Lily was asleep and the house was quiet, Thomas found Elena in the small home office they shared. She was looking at an old photograph, the only one she'd kept from before. Sophia, young and radiant, holding baby Lily. "She'd be proud of us," Thomas said softly. "Of what we built from what she started." "I think so too." Elena set down the photograph. "I used to wonder if we were honoring her memory or running from it, but now I think maybe they're the same thing. Maybe the best way to honor someone is to learn from their choices and make better ones." "That's profound. You should write that down." "Maybe I will." "Been thinking about starting a journal, documenting this journey. Not for anyone else, just for us. So we never forget how far we've come. I'd like to read it someday." Thomas sat beside her. Every word. Outside, the neighborhood was settling into its evening rhythm. Porch lights clicking on, families gathering for dinner, the ordinary sounds of ordinary lives. And in this small house in North Carolina, two people who'd once been defined by danger and violence were learning what it meant to be defined by love instead. It wasn't always easy. Some days, Thomas would catch himself analyzing situations with the strategic mind of a crime lord. Some nights, Elena would wake from dreams of the past. Lily still asked questions about her mother, about why they'd moved, about the parts of her history that would always be mysteries. But they were learning, growing, becoming. 3 years later, on a crisp October morning, Thomas stood in the backyard watching Lily, now 8, play soccer with neighborhood kids. Elena emerged from the house carrying 2 cups of coffee and a letter. "It's from Agent Morrison." She handed him the envelope. "Marchetti's trial concluded. He got 30 years, no possibility of parole." Thomas read the letter carefully. It detailed the trial, the testimony Elena had provided via video conference, the final dismantling of an empire that had terrorized the city for decades. At the bottom, Morrison had written a personal note. Your testimony and evidence led to 47 additional arrests and the closure of operations in 3 states. You helped end a cycle of violence that had lasted 2 generations. Thank you for having the courage to step forward. I hope you found the peace you were looking for. SM. It's really over, Elena breathed. All of it. Yeah. Thomas folded the letter carefully. We can finally stop looking over our shoulders. What do we do now? He smiled, gesturing to the backyard where Lily had just scored a goal and was celebrating with her team. We live. We watch our daughter grow up. We run your bookshop and my classroom. We have dinner with neighbors and argue about whose turn it is to do dishes. We be so aggressively normal that we forget we were ever anything else. Sounds perfect. It really does. That night, after Lily was asleep, Thomas and Elena sat on their porch under the stars. The same stars that had witnessed their old lives, their transformation, their rebirth. But now they looked different. Not threatening, just beautiful. Do you ever regret it? Elena asked. Walking away from everything? Thomas thought for a long moment. I regret who I was. I regret the pain I caused, the choices I made, the person I became. But walking away? Choosing this? He took her hand. That's the first decision I've made in 20 years that I'm truly proud of. Because it wasn't about power or control or fear. It was about love. And love is the only empire worth building. That's beautiful. You should say that at our anniversary party next month. Absolutely not. I have a reputation as a boring history teacher to maintain. They laughed, and the sound carried into the night, light and free and full of possibility. In the house behind them, in the small bedroom painted lavender, Lily Martin slept peacefully. On her nightstand sat a photograph of a woman she barely remembered but would always love. Her mother, Sophia Rossi, who'd started a revolution with her courage, who'd documented the truth even when it cost her life, who'd believed that one man could change and had been right. And in that small house in North Carolina, her legacy lived on, not in violence or vengeance, but in the simple act of a former crime lord teaching teenagers about history, a waitress turned bookshop owner helping customers find their next read, and a little girl who would grow up knowing that love was stronger than any empire. The end wasn't dramatic. There were no explosions or final confrontations or dramatic last words. The end was just life. Beautiful, ordinary, miraculous life. And for Vittorio Dante, Thomas Martin, who'd spent 20 years building empires on fear, that ordinary life was the greatest victory he'd ever won. Years later, when Lily was 16 and finally old enough to understand, they would tell her the truth. About Sophia, about Vittorio, about the choice they'd made to give her a chance at normalcy. She would cry and rage and struggle to reconcile the gentle man who taught her to ride a bike with the crime lord who'd once controlled a city. But eventually, she would understand. Because she would see what they'd built, not an empire of fear, but a family of love. And she would learn the lesson that had taken them so long to understand. True power isn't about control. It's about the courage to let go, to choose love over fear, to build something good from the ruins of something broken. And in the end, that's exactly what they'd done.